Welcome back to today's video. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance, as well as how the debate performance is going to affect the 2024 election map. Before we get into today's video, make sure to the subscribe button down below and like the video. Let's get into today's video. Welcome back to today's video. Make sure to subscribe button down below and like the video. So taking a look at who won the first presidential debate with Donald Trump and Joe Biden, there's several instances that we have to look at in terms of what was expected going into the debate, as well as what really came out of the debate. So taking a look at several metrics that we have here, we can see here that Biden turned in the worst debate performance of the cycle than any of the Republican candidates did in any of the primary debates. So when you go back to the primary debates, the four primary debates that the Republicans had, Biden's expectations going in and out of the debate were horrible. So taking a look at this, Joe Biden got a 1.99 performance out of 5, and it was expected that he would get a 2.62 out of 5. So he scored about 0.62 below what he was expected to. Trump, going into the debate, had 3.00 out of 5 going into the debate, and coming out, he had 3.04 out of 5. So he got a little bit better after the debate. But in terms of who won the debate, from a CNN flash poll, taking a look at this, currently, according to this poll, 67% of voters said that Trump had a better performance and then 33% saying Biden had a better performance. 55% of respondents said they expected Trump to turn into a better performance than Biden. That was a 55 to 45% margin going into the debate. All right, so this was generally speaking a horrible debate for Biden. So taking a look at this pre-debate, who do you think is more likely to do a better job? Okay, so who do you think is going to do a better job at the debate? Pre-debate, 45% for Biden. Going into the debate, said Biden's going to do a good job, and then going out of the debate, 55% for Biden. 33% for Biden. So 45 to 33%. So generally speaking, this was an extremely bad debate for President Biden. This is the first presidential debate that Donald Trump, I believe, has won by such a big margin. You could possibly say that the second presidential debates of 2020, Trump ended up winning, but I don't think by this big of a margin, Trump ended up winning. So this was an extremely good night for the former president with regards to that. But taking a look at some new polling data that we have here, some polling data that was taken from June 27th to June 29th. So this was about right after the debate. We see Donald Trump is leading by 4 percentage points. When you include all three candidates, you see here that Kennedy takes in 11%, Trump takes in 44%, and Biden takes in 41%. And another poll taken on June 28th, right after the debate, we see Trump is leading by 2 points. Another poll, Morning Consult poll, Biden's leading by 1%. Another poll taken on June 28th, Trump is leading by 2%. Another one after the debate, Trump's leading by 3%. 3% Trump's leading. Another 3% Trump's leading. Another 3% and another 3%. And it just keeps on getting horrible for President Biden here. We're seeing that in the majority of these polls, Biden is generally speaking doing horrible. These are some polls even before the debate. But as you're seeing after the debate, it's also very bad for President Biden. In this array of polls, you can see that there's only about 1 or 2 polls here that show President Biden actually in the lead. Of course, this is putting into effect their aggregate that 538 has, but it is not a good debate whatsoever. Now, I will say, however, that some of these polls over here are some polls with other candidates, and the reason why. Sorry, let me clarify this. The reason why they have some other candidates like Booker, Klobuchar, Shapiro, who is a governor of a state, Pete Buttigieg, who is the Secretary of Transportation, Newsom, Whitmer, some Harris. The reason why they have some of these polls is because right after the debate, a lot of Democrats called for President Biden to step down from the race, which is why they included those polls. So ignore those polls. Sorry for confusing you possibly. But in a majority of these polls here, Biden's up by 1 point, Trump's up by 2 points, and then Trump's up by 4 points. So generally speaking, it was a horrible debate performance. Even prior to the debate, I mean, it was horrible. Trump was leading by even like 7 points. New York Times Siena poll had him down, had Biden down. It was even in one poll by The Economist. CNN Brazil poll, Trump up 5 points. New York Post poll, Trump up 7 points. It was extremely bad. One poll showed President Biden in the lead prior to the debate on June 22nd to June 24th. But this was not a good night whatsoever for President Biden. Trump is currently leading in the aggregate. Previously, Trump was actually behind in the aggregate. Biden was leading by 0.2 or 0.3%, although Trump has regained his lead here, leading by 1.3% in the poll. So this is a very good news for the former president. Taking a look at some other polls here that we have, majority of these polls might be repeats, but this is from RCP. Trump is in the lead by 1.9%, which is approximately the same as 538. Trump's in the lead by 1.3%, according to 538. According to RCP, Trump's led by 1.9%. But as you can see in the majority of these polls, Trump is also in the lead. Going to the individual swing states, we do have a new poll that came out, an FMRA poll, taken on June 29th. This is a very interesting poll. And when we take a look at this, with regards to who they will vote for the general election. This is with regards to their favorability. You can see that Trump has a 38, Biden has a 38% favorability rating. Donald Trump is at a 41% favorability rating. So in terms of favorability rating, they're about the same with regards to that. But with regards to who they will vote for, if the election were held today, who would you vote for or lean toward? And it currently has Trump 39%, lean towards Trump 2%, total vote for Trump is 41%. Biden 34%, Biden lean toward Biden 4%, total vote for Biden 38%. So Trump's leading by approximately 3% in this poll in Michigan, taken after the debate. 3% there in that particular poll. That was taken on June 29th as well. So that's very interesting in the state of Michigan. Trump's leading by around 3% in a critical swing state for President Trump in order to win. Another state here is the state of Georgia. Georgia, Trump will end up winning. There's almost no doubt about it at this point. Trump will end up winning in this state no matter what, due to the fact that he's ahead in most of the polls for quite some time. If you take a look at this, Biden has not been in the lead almost throughout the entire race. Biden has not really been in the lead whatsoever. If you take a look at all the polls here, you can see that there was one or two polls that came out a long time ago that were taken up long time ago. But for the most part, Trump is in the lead. We do have an Atlanta Journal poll that was taken. And when we take a look at this, this was taken on June 25th. So this was actually taken prior to the debate. But this shows Donald Trump leading by 5%. So that is another poll there. Another poll that we want to take a look at is with regards to the state of Arizona. And taking a look at the state of Arizona, Trump's currently leading by 5.6%. 5.6%. Again, the debate really helped Donald Trump. It really helped him. The new poll that came out of Michigan, really helpful for him. It puts him in the lead by almost 3 to 4% there. So it's extremely good for the former president. Another poll here by Am Greatness poll taken from 17th to 20th. And again, the reason why they're not taking much polls in Arizona and Georgia is due to the fact that Trump is clearly in the lead in these states. That might not be the reason, but Trump is in the lead in these states. This poll was taken prior to the debate, so you can just imagine how bad it would be for Biden even after the debate. But when we get into the breakdown of this, who they're going to vote for, 48% for Trump, 42% for Biden, and then 11% undecided. You can see that when you go back to March of 2024, Trump has actually improved by approximately 2%. Meanwhile, Biden has stayed the same, undecided, lessened by 1%. So that's good news for the former president. This was prior to the debate. Okay, prior to the debate, you can only imagine how horrible it would be after the debate, considering the fact that 67% of voters said Trump ended up winning the debate. 67% of debate watchers said that Trump had a better performance in the debate. This was taken prior to the debate, so you can just imagine how much Trump's margins may have gone up even after these polls were taken. Some Nevada polls that were recently taken here. This might have been taken before the debate. This was taken also before the debate. This was taken on June 25th, so June 25th of 2024. But again, Trump was leading by around 2 to 3% in this particular poll. Trump's lead in Nevada has been going down, relatively speaking, to where it was before. Trump was leading by around 7.7% at one point, although now it's gone down to around 2.8%. Yeah, 2.8%. But again, this was taken prior to the debate as well. North Carolina is another state that we want to take a look at. North Carolina is a state where Donald Trump has a pretty solid shot of winning. He's ahead currently by 6.7%. 6.7% in the state of North Carolina, and it has been like that for quite some time. You have been seeing that 6.4%, 6.7% is an extremely high peak for the former president. He was at higher points previously. He was ahead by around 7.5% in February, and Trump really had his best performance in around February. It has been lessening since then, although again, we do want to see some more recent polls after the debate. Pennsylvania, Trump's led by 2.8%, another set of good polls for the former president. It was narrowing up and becoming extremely tight for quite some time. If you're taking a look at some of these polls, you can see that it was really a 1-point difference for both parties. It was going back and forth, although Trump does seem to be taking a good lead in this state by 2.8% in this particular state. So as we're taking a look at this, it is very clear at this point that we have the former president winning the 2024 election by a pretty big margin. Even in states that you might not be thinking of being as particular swing states, at least some people might be thinking of, right? If I were to take a look at view the polls here with regards to the all those states, let me take a look at this here. Trump v. Biden, and then let me go to the general election, not the general election, sorry, the individual swing state, and then let me go to some of the an individual state that I want to look at, and that is the state of New Jersey. Let me take a look at the state of New Jersey. So, state of New Jersey, there's a poll here. Biden's up 7. Okay, Biden's up 7, but there was a recent poll actually taken by 538. 538's aggregate that shows Trump leading by 1%. So Trump's only behind by around 7% according to the RCP polls. Although when you take a look at some of the polls by 538, it is very interesting as well because Trump is actually ahead by a larger margin in the state of or closing the gap with Biden by a larger margin compared to the 5 RCP polls. So take a look at this here. Trump's led by 1 point in a recent poll taken from June 26th to June 27th. I did put this on my community page, but Kennedy took up 7% of the vote, Trump 41%, and Biden 40%. So Trump's leading by 1% in this poll in New Jersey. Do I expect Trump to win New Jersey? No, I don't. I don't expect Trump to win New Jersey. A lot of the polls are showing Biden the lead by around 5% or so. So I do not expect Trump to win New Jersey, although it is very interesting how close it's getting with regards to some of these pertinent swing states that are going to be important. Donald Trump will end up winning Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, as well as Nebraska at large. Iowa, a recent poll was actually taken showing Trump leading by, I believe, around 17 to 20 points. 20 points, I believe. So it was very interesting. Trump was leading there by double digits, almost by a 20-point margin there. Extremely encouraging news for the former president out of the state of Iowa. It's basically gone from a very risky state for the Republicans. In the 2012 election, obviously, it was extremely liberal, not extremely liberal, but it voted for Barack Obama. Whereas in this election, we are seeing right now that the electoral map is obviously changing. And now Donald Trump is in a solid position to win the state of Iowa. In the state of Alaska, Donald Trump will end up winning by a likely margin. In the state of Hawaii, Biden will end up winning by a safe margin. Texas, we're going to go ahead and give to Donald Trump by a likely margin. Florida as well by a likely margin. South Carolina by a safe margin. Maryland Maine at large will vote for Biden by a tilt margin. Donald Trump will end up winning Maine's second congressional district. Sorry about that, second congressional district by a safe margin. There, safe to lead margin, safe to likely margin. Sorry, and then Biden will end up winning Maine's first congressional district. So here we have our electoral map filled out with some of these respective states. Now, I do want to look at some other key crucial states that are going to be extremely important in the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia is a state that I want to look at due to the fact that it is going extremely shifting towards the right. Relative to the 2020 election, it is going extremely towards the right. Currently, Biden's ahead by extremely, extremely small margins. Now, polls have not been taken according to 538 for quite some time. Last time a poll was taken was from June 1st to June 3rd. And the poll showed Biden leading by only 1%. It showed Trump and Biden evening up in this state, Biden leading by 2%, evening up, Biden leading by 4%, 1%, 3%, 1%. It is very interesting because if the polling data is continuing in the direction it is going at, Trump has a very good shot of winning in 2024 in November. Because when you go back to previously, it was not good news at all for President Biden. Even, for example, if you go and take a look at, for example, these RCP, for instance, if you look at RCP, for instance, taking a look at this, Biden's leading by 2.2%. Previously, if you look back at some of the polls, Biden was even leading by around 16%, 3%, 9%, 4%, 6%. Although you do see that the tides are changing, and it is very much narrowing up for the former president and President Biden. Before, Biden was ahead by around 4 to 5%. Now it's very much narrowing up in the state of Virginia. You are seeing that even in some polls, it's evening up. If the polls continue in the trajectory that they're going at, Trump could possibly end up winning in this particular state. Although for now, I'm going to give it to Joe Biden. Even after the debate, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Joe Biden. Another state that I want to look at is the state of Minnesota, which I have not looked at it up to this point. But Minnesota is a state that I think is very, very much in play for this election. I mean, if you're going to put Pennsylvania in play, very much Minnesota is in play. Biden's leading by only 1.8%. If you go back to the 2020 election, Biden ended up leading by around 7% or so. Taking a look at some recent polls. A recent poll taken from June 13 to June 18. Again, this poll was taken prior to the debate. Trump leading by 1%. Biden leading by 2%. Biden leading by 6%. Trump leading by 2%, 5%, 4%. Biden leading by 4% and 2%. When you include all 5 candidates in this poll, Trump is leading by 1%. So this is very, very good news for the former president. Kennedy obviously not doing too. He's doing pretty well. Obviously, for a third-party candidate, I never want to discount him. But this is where the polling data is currently in the state of Minnesota. So the debate performance was a chagrin for Joe Biden, and it was not good whatsoever. And I do expect polls coming out of the state of Minnesota, more recent polls hopefully coming out of the state of Minnesota, to be showing Donald Trump in around the same margin that he was at around 1% or so. And it will be interesting for Donald Trump. But I will go ahead and give Minnesota to Joe Biden, and Donald Trump will end up winning the state of Wisconsin, and Donald Trump will end up winning the state of Michigan and also Pennsylvania. He'll end up winning these states by a tilt margin. Nevada also by a tilt margin. Polls in Nevada do tend to overestimate Republicans or do tend to not overestimate, maybe not overestimate them, but sometimes in the general election, they're not as much underestimating the Democrats. So I will give that state by a tilt margin. Arizona by a tilt margin as well. Georgia, we will see about that. North Carolina, I'm going to put it by a lean margin. And then Georgia, I'm going to go ahead and put it as being a tilt margin for now. I'm kind of iffy on that. I do believe that North Carolina is going to vote to the right of Georgia. I'm not entirely sure on that, whether North Carolina is going to vote to the right or to the left of Georgia. It is going to be very interesting. I'm going to see as the results are coming in. Currently, Trump's doing better in the polling data in North Carolina, and Trump ended up winning in North Carolina by around, I believe, 1.2 or 1.3%, I believe. In North Carolina, he ended up losing in Georgia by, I believe, 0.3 or 0.2%. I believe 0.23% is what he lost by. But that is for that particular state. Donald Trump will win Maine second congressional district by a tilt margin as well. So we're basically, I mean, you might say we're basically where we were before the debate, but I do believe that we do need some more polling data in Minnesota and Virginia. I am extremely hesitant to give Minnesota or Virginia to Donald Trump just due to the fact that he lost these states by big margins, really, when you think about them. 7-point margins he lost these states by. So I'm not, I don't want to be too, giving it to Donald Trump just as soon as, a couple of polls show him in the lead. Really, for me to give Minnesota to Trump, what I would need to see is I would need to see at least the next 5 or 6 polls in Donald Trump's favor, at least 3 or 4 polls in Donald Trump's favor, because the polls are trending towards Donald Trump in Minnesota and Virginia. They are trending towards Donald Trump. In some of the Rust Belt states, they are trending towards Biden. In the Rust Belt states, if you look at, for instance, if you look at the Virginia, for instance, sorry, not Virginia, but if you look at, for instance, Michigan, Trump was leading by around 5% quite a while ago. And you actually saw that they were closening up a little bit. But then Trump's leading now by 1.2%. So obviously you do see in some of these Rust Belt states that Trump is losing some ground here. Even when you look at some other states, obviously some of these polls were taken prior to the debate. I do want to make sure you guys note that. This poll was taken after the debate, though. Trump leading by 4%. This was taken after the debate. I believe, let me take a look at this. It was taken June 29th. Yeah, June 29th. But the polls after the debate do show Donald Trump in the lead. Although if you look at Wisconsin, I mean, if you look at the general trend, at least general trend in like even Arizona, for instance, like at one point, now it's at 5.2%. Arizona actually has been quite good for the former president. But if you look at other states like North Carolina, for instance, Donald Trump was in the lead by a bigger margin at one point. If you go back to February or so, Trump was in the lead by around 7.5% at one point. And then if you look at the state of Wisconsin, Donald Trump was in the lead by at one point even 1.9%. Now it's gone extremely close to each other, obviously. But a Marquette poll came in. I believe this poll came in while we were making this video, maybe, possibly. But a Marquette poll here taken by it was taken, I believe, let me take a look at the date here. The date for this particular poll. It was taken from May 9th, 6th to May 15th. So this was taken quite some time ago. But this was a Marquette poll about the former president with regards to them being tied. But it is extremely narrowing up. Trump was in the lead by a bigger margin. So in the Rust Belt, he is decreasing in terms of his lead in those particular states. And even in Nevada, Nevada is even worse for Donald Trump. He's decreasing by a rapid rate in Nevada. He's still in the lead again. He's still in the lead. Although when you look at it before, Trump was in the lead by around 7.7%, and now it's at around 2.8%. Okay. But whereas when you look at, some of the Virginia and Minnesota, it is trending towards the former president. Okay. So that is for this particular presidential election video. Now, guys, tell me in the comment section whether or not you think Biden will drop out of the race. I don't think Biden's going to drop out of the race. I think he's going to stay in the race. Do I think that it's going to be good for Democrats if they take President Biden out? Personally, I think that they're screwed. They're really screwed either way. They're going to be screwed either way because like they're doing horrible even with the other candidates. The only candidate who I think they can nominate who has a good shot of beating Donald Trump is a candidate like, I would say, Bernie Sanders or somebody like that. They need a really, like, what people would call a true progressive, if you will. They need someone like a Bernie Sanders or like, I don't know, somebody like that. An Elizabeth Warren might also work. I feel like Elizabeth Warren is a little bit too, not a part of the squad, if you could call them that. I don't think they should nominate someone like AOC or someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think the Democrats should nominate somebody like that. I don't think they should nominate AOC. AOC just seems a little bit too, not. She seems very unelectable. Personally, I think that she's very unelectable. If they really want to replace Biden, they can't replace him with a Newsom. If they replace Biden with Newsom, they're screwed. Okay, their entire election scheme is screwed. Okay, Newsom might even do worse than Biden. Okay, and even when we look at some of these polls here that were taken, I showed you some. I just looked through some polls there that were taken by Data Progress, the Data Progress polls, and they mapped out with some of the different candidates with Newsom, with Shapiro, Klobuchar, I believe, as well, maybe as well, and they showed Trump leading by around 2 to 3%. Do I think that the age factor is a huge problem for President Biden? Yes, but again, if they want to replace Joe Biden, they got to replace him with somebody good. If they did replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, uh, their entire election is over because Kamala Harris does worse in the polls than Donald Trump, than Joe Biden does. So at this point, unless they're going to nominate someone like Bernie Sanders or somebody like that, they're really not going to win the election. Okay, they're not going to win the election. If they just, get some establishment candidate like Newsom or somebody like that in, they're really going to lose this election. As far as Trump, I would say for Trump, like in terms of him winning the election, if he just keeps on doing what he did on last night's debate, I think that he'd win I think that he's going to win the election. They are going to have one more debate as well. Now, write down in the comment section because this is something that a lot of people are divided on, possibly. But do you think there's going to be another debate? Do you think that Trump and Biden are actually going to do another debate with each other? It is scheduled for another debate, but we're going to see whether or not they're actually going to do another debate. It is going to be very interesting because I think that if they do have another debate, I think Biden's going to do better in the next debate because what I think ended up happening for President Biden is this is what ended up happening. His voice was extremely sore going into the debate. And the problem for President Biden is that he had these memorized, pre-scripted lines the entire time. It was everything he was saying was pre-scripted. And what ended up happening is that if you're in a debate, this is what you're supposed to do. If you're in a debate, your opponent says something, right? Donald Trump says something. What is he supposed to do? He's supposed to modify his answer that he has in his brain to go against what Trump just said, right? But Biden, on the other hand, Trump says something that Biden could very easily go against, for instance. Okay? Trump says something about, immigration or Gaza or something like that, right? Biden could sometimes very easily go against some of these statements and bring in a base. Although Biden goes with those pre-scripted things that he has in his mind and he just starts saying them. And the problem is Biden has these pre-scripted lines in his mind, although he doesn't understand any of the pre-scripted lines and he doesn't actually like have them fully memorized, if you will. And that's where you saw Biden losing his train of thought and everything. Also, another thing is that Biden didn't really respond to anything Trump said. Trump, for instance, didn't even answer the question on childcare, right? They asked a question about childcare, for instance. Trump, I believe, I listened to the debate only once. I looked at some of the clips after the debate even, but Trump didn't even answer about childcare. He didn't even answer it. If you go back to the debate and look at the debate, Trump did not say a single thing about childcare. He started talking about the previous, I believe the previous thing that Biden talked about. Then the moderator asked him again. He wouldn't answer it. But then Biden has to answer the question. What is Biden supposed to do? Biden's supposed to call Donald Trump out and say, you didn't answer the question. Regardless of what you think about childcare or government provided childcare and things like that, Biden should have been very easily been able to say, you didn't answer that question, answer the question, right? Biden didn't do any of that. Meanwhile, he just said those pre-scripted lines that he had running in his mind. And the problem is he doesn't have those pre-scripted lines fully memorized, and his staff gave him way too many facts. Like, he started spitting out way too many facts, like way too many facts. And the problem is that you can't understand any of the facts because he's saying it in an extremely raspy voice, people called it, and it was extremely low. His voice was extremely low, and compared to Trump, he was not very confident while he was saying everything. And especially he wasn't thinking about his pacing either, because for instance, when he was talking about Medicare or Medicaid or Medicare, he said we beat Medicare at the very end, right? We beat Medicare. He was kind of losing his train of thought, and then he said we beat Medicare. And then Trump immediately grappled onto that. And then he said, yeah, of course you beat Medicare. You beat it too. And then he said, he kept on saying that, right? But it was like, why did Biden have to say that? He didn't have his pacing correct. And like, as soon as Trump said that, Biden should have, I don't know if he had another time to respond. I don't know if he had a rebuttal or anything. Maybe he didn't have a rebuttal, but he could have at least, gotten that into the next point. He could have easily said to Donald Trump, no, I didn't beat Medicare to death. You did this. He didn't say anything like that. He just kept on going with his prescripted notes that he had in his mind, right? And even in the way he walked and everything, it wasn't good for President Biden at all. And it was really in a bad situation for him. He had a lot of prescripted lines that he had. His staff overprepared him, definitely. I think Biden would have done much better if his staff did absolutely nothing. If his staff just told him, go out for the debate and talk to Donald Trump, I think that he would have done much better. Personally, I think the fact that he had a 1 week break and he had all that pressure going in, I think that wasn't good. Donald Trump just came out, and to be honest with you guys, Donald Trump, as far as the debate went, Donald Trump didn't really throw a lot of hard facts. Okay, like, Donald Trump did not do the best debate performance. To be honest with you guys, like, he said what he needed to say, but he didn't really give any facts or anything. He just kind of said the economy is doing horrible or something like that, right? And he didn't necessarily tell why the economy was doing horrible or some stats on why the economy was doing horrible. So, like, Donald Trump didn't even do that great of a job during the debate. Okay, you could say that he did better than Biden. Of course, he did better than Biden. But the fact of the matter is, almost anybody could beat Biden in that debate. Okay, like a 5-year-old could have beaten Biden in that debate. Okay, you don't have to be smart to beat Biden in that debate. Literally, all you have to do is just go up there and say something confidently. That's all you've got to say, regardless of how true it is. And I'm not saying that Trump lied or didn't lie. I'm just saying that you don't have to be extremely smart to beat Joe Biden in that debate. All you have to do is literally just stand there and say stuff extremely confidently. If you're able to do that, you beat Joe Biden in that debate. It was extremely easy. And Biden made it way too easy for Trump to beat him. That was like almost anybody could beat Biden in that debate. But Trump did a good job. He didn't, interrupt Biden that much. The only time he really interrupted Biden, it felt like, was when Biden started talking about golf, which I don't know. I think that entire section of that debate was extremely weird. Like, Biden talking about golf, and then like when Biden called Trump a sucker and a loser, that was like it just felt kind of like childish, I guess you could say. Um, so that didn't necessarily seem good. Trump seemed much more like compared to Biden. He seemed much more mature than Biden, especially when Biden was saying, "You're a sucker, you're a loser," right? When Biden said that, when he said that, "You're a sucker, you're a loser," when Biden said that to Trump, uh, Biden did not seem very mature when he said that. And again, would Trump have seemed mature if he said that? No, he would not. Okay, and that's why Trump did so bad in the first debate in 2020 because he kept on interrupting Biden. Although Trump just let Biden speak. He just let Biden speak. He let him keep on talking. And Biden lost his train of thought in many directions. He had way too many facts in his mind, and he was not doing a good job. And it was a horrible debate for Joe Biden. And a lot of Americans are coming out of this debate undecided. And it's really going to be very interesting as the polls keep on coming from these particular swing states. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video.